So this is the latest Nintendo Switch. This hasn't been updated since 2017, and the big update now is the fact that you can buy it with an OLED display. This is important if you're someone who plays games portably. Like if you're constantly gaming on this and it's not attached to the TV, this is something you're gonna notice right away. OLED just gives you a better visual experience. You get these deep, dark blacks, you have a brighter screen to work with. It just feels more immersive than your standard LCD panel that they offered on the original Switch. Now this is the original retail box. The way you can tell it's OLED is by reading it on the bottom of it, but there are a couple of other improvements they have made. If you flip the box to the left-hand side, you can see that they increased the screen size. The original Switch came with a 6.2-inch display, and now it's bumped up to 7 inches. And before, it only had 32 gigabytes of storage, but now it comes with 64 gigabytes. The other improvement is the dock. It now has a LAN port, so if you're physically or wanting to physically connect it to your network, you can. This offers obviously lower latency, and apparently the adjustable kickstand has been improved, which was a major complaint on the original one. Now inside the box, you get the actual Switch itself. You have your two Joy-Cons. I got the white model here. Apparently these haven't been updated, so it might still suffer from that drift that a lot of people talk about. You have a bunch of paperwork. You have the actual stand if you connect it to your TV. It still comes with two USB ports on the right-hand side, but if you remove the back plate, not only do you have a spot for your AC adapter and HDMI out, but you have the brand new LAN port, which now rests on the bottom of the stand. You have an HDMI cable, so you can connect it to your TV. You have the controller. If you want to put your Joy-Cons together and use it as a proper controller, you can. And of course, the last thing in the box is a USB Type-C charger to charge the battery. Now these are lanyards if you want to connect to your Joy-Con so you can wrap them around the wrist. This way it feels more secure when you're playing the games. Now there is a bit of a weight difference. The new OLED Switch is about 420 grams, whereas the previous one just rested under 400. I don't think you're gonna be able to tell the difference. Like you would really have to like weigh them in both hands to feel it. So not that much heavier, but it is a bit heavier because there is a bigger screen now and a few components have been updated. Now this stand, the kickstand, this has been a big complaint in the previous Switch. I can tell already just how much more solid this feels. The metal is stiffer, so like if you're holding it like this, it's a lot more difficult to move it. It just feels, it feels confident, you know? Whereas the other one, you were like worried about it if it was gonna break. This just feels confident to use. I can finally rest it like this and feel like it's not gonna flop back on itself. So I have it turned on, I downloaded a bunch of games, and the first thing I noticed was how much better looking this display is. It's still 720p, but the big difference is the brightness. It's significantly brighter than the previous display they used, and OLED just looks so much better. There's more distinction between the whites and blacks, like the blacks around the lettering, where it says Metroid looks deeper and darker. And I think if you're playing a lot of like dark games where there's dark settings, it's gonna be visually more distinctive compared to before. On top of that, there's an adhesive on this to protect the screen from getting scratched. Nintendo says do not remove it. And quite frankly, I don't know why anybody would, because I can barely see the adhesive. Like I can't even tell that it's on this thing. I don't have the original Nintendo Switch here, but I do have the Nintendo Switch Lite, and it just looks dull, like absolutely dull compared to this OLED version. On top of that, the Nintendo Switch Lite also doesn't have a laminated display, so you have like this sunken in display, which doesn't look as clean as this guy. The extra screen real estate is noticeable, especially if you put it against a screen that's 6.2. So if you found the original Nintendo Switch to be a bit too small, this should be a bit more appealing. So this game is called Metroid Dread. It just came out at the exact same time as the Nintendo Switch OLED, and I feel like this is the perfect game to kind of showcase what an OLED display can do. If this was the original Nintendo Switch, these little dark spots over here wouldn't have the same sort of separation. Like these pixels are completely off, whereas on the other Switch, they probably would look a bit more gray. It just gives more depth to the scene you're looking at. Now, one thing I did notice right away was the sound. It's a little bit louder compared to the previous Switch. I feel like if you're gaming a lot and you're in a lot of dark spots, that's when you're gonna truly see the difference with an OLED display. But if you have this hooked up to your TV like most people do, you're obviously not going to notice the difference. Just a couple of other things to note. The headphone jack is still there. You still have a spot for your micro SD card slot. And of course your power rocker is on the left-hand side. The vent to keep this thing cool and let air out is still there. And of course you still have your USB Type-C connection on the bottom of the Switch. Honestly, if you're buying a brand new Switch, you're gonna appreciate the OLED display. I don't think you should upgrade from the 2017 model unless you're someone who consistently uses their Switch in the hand. If you're connecting it to the TV the entire time and you're only playing with it off the TV here and there, it's really not worth the upgrade. This is just a nice small iteration to a device that hasn't been updated in quite a long time. This is not the Nintendo Switch Pro everyone has been waiting for. That's probably coming out sometime down the road, but for those of you out there who are portable with their gaming systems will appreciate the benefit of using an OLED panel. I hope that answers all of your questions. If you have any more, let me know in the comment section down below. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next one.